Next, we have an Italian delight, and this one has to be made just right. Start with an ounce of amaretto. You won't find this drink in the ghetto. Half an ounce of orange juice, and you get a colour that looks like peas. Now add an ounce and a half of cream, and shake it all up till the babies scream.
As he strained Joe's drink into a martini glass and topped it off with a cherry, half the bar cheered and clapped. Moments later, the TV crew left with smiles on their faces.
That will make for a fun clip on the news tonight,
Duncan said.
Everyone will see what a happening place this is and want to come in.
You're pretty full of yourself, I said with a laugh. What makes you think people would want to see you do that again?
Oh, come on, I'm charming. Admit it.
With that, he scooped up the 2 drinks and delivered them to Joe and Frank. I went back into the kitchen to fix the brothers' sandwiches, and when I brought them out front, I saw Cora come in carrying her laptop. She settled in at a table with her usual glass of Chardonnay and ordered a veggie pizza. 10 minutes later, the Signoriello brothers moved and joined her. Within an hour, Tad and Kevin dropped in too, and Tad pushed a second table up to Cora's and settled in. Kevin arrived wearing his overalls and still in his work clothes, an unusual departure from his norm. He walked up to the bar to order a drink, and when I waited on him, I experienced an odd synesthetic reaction. A faint humming sound that seemed to oscillate. It was a distinct sound, and I was sure I'd never heard it around Kevin before, but I had heard it elsewhere. It was one of the first sounds I'd heard in the alley that morning when I stumbled across Ginny's body. Kevin took his drink and headed for the table where Tad was, exchanging polite greetings with the brothers and Cora. I could tell this core group of regular customers was busy cooking up something, and my curiosity was aroused. But whenever I walked by and tried to eavesdrop on their conversations, they grew quiet. Along with my regulars, there were plenty of other customers, some of whom I'd seen before, though they weren't what I would call regulars, and a fair number of unknowns, which is typical for a Saturday. By noon, the place was packed, and it was all we could do to keep up with the food and drink orders. The big draw was still Ginny's murder, and while I couldn't discern what my regulars were discussing, the rest of the place was abuzz on the topic. We even had several tables occupied by out-of-town visitors who came armed with their cameras to take shots of the notorious Milwaukee bar that was now associated with 2 murders. Also among my customers were others who popped in but didn't stay, police officers and detectives who ordered food and coffee to go. I began to think Duncan had arranged for this ongoing parade of law enforcement to help him keep an eye on me now that I was linked to the murder weapon. But around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he offered up another explanation.
Your coffee is a big hit with the troops, he said. Cops do love their coffee, and when you have a decent food menu to balance it out, well, let's just say I'm pretty sure cops are going to be an ongoing part of your life for the foreseeable future.
Given the reason Duncan and the other cops had been around to discover my coffee in the first place, I didn't find his comment all that reassuring, even though I think he meant it to be so. But business was business, and the more I had of it, the more money I made. So if turning my place into a cop bar was what it took, so be it. While I had feared the cops' presence might be intimidating to my other customers, it had the exact opposite effect. The cops were hailed by most as if they were celebrities, part and parcel of the reality TV-type drama unfolding at my bar. And Duncan must have schooled his colleagues well, because not a one of them let on that they knew him outside of the bar. After an hour or so of conversation, my group of regulars had grown like an amoeba, engulfing a group of people at one end of the bar who were discussing Ginny's murder, speculating on motive, evidence, and suspects. This growing group drew pictures on napkins and the attention of other customers. The more they talked, the bigger the group became as other curious patrons joined in to hear all the latest scuttlebutt about the murder. Even some of the cops who dropped in participated at times. It wasn't typical bar talk by any means, but I was just so relieved to see all of my regular customers here after last night's interrogations that I didn't care. Because Duncan seemed particularly interested in the discussions taking place at the bar around my group of regulars, I sent Pete out to help Deborah wait on tables, while Duncan and I took over behind the bar. Helmut arrived just before noon to take over the kitchen duties.